The recent controversies surrounding church leaders and the reported exploitation of their congregants in South Africa has now raised issues over the journalists investigating the stories around them and their safety. City Press reporter Ntombizodwa Makhoba was detained in Malawi recently while probing reports over Prophet Bushiri's church. She joins us now in studio. Very good evening to you, Ntombizodwa, and thank you so much for talking to us. I mean, you've just said that you've been telling the story over and over again. But just to look at it, obviously, several days later, have you learned anything new since that incident?
You know what, as a female journalist, I've learned so much, I've learned that, don't stop to do, to expose what needs to be exposed, you do know, you are aware of this new prophets, fake prophets, it's something that we need to talk about it. We need to raise it and we need to teach our people, that, hey, stick to your old churches, and because if you you might realize that it's so rare to find like our South African pastors or prophets to go to foreign countries and start churches. I've never heard of such,
Okay.
So I've learned so much to keep on exposing, be courageous, It hasn't been easy for the past few days, I must say.
Let's talk about that. I mean, some of our viewers may not have necessarily read your account of it. And if there's anything that's come to light post that incident where you're detained, please just share with us, perhaps the benefit of hindsight.
Obviously, I wouldn't divulge much, but obviously I've been getting more and more information. People are coming out, people are ready, they want to speak, they want to tell their stories, And if you look at my story this week about the other prophet,
yes, Alpha
Lukau, obviously, at some point, people want to speak, they will DM you, SMS you, but at some point they will say, you know what, we can't do this anymore, and you ask yourself why.
In your trip to Malawi, because I want to start with that and we'll talk about everything in generally, is that what happened? That you either got a tip off or there was something that you were following up on and you went to Malawi? Did somebody give you anonymous information?
No, so what happened is I've been writing stories about the so-called prophets, and obviously while I was busy writing, people were calling me, to say, we have more info for you. Can you come to Malawi? And obviously I didn't just wake up and go to Malawi. I have sources who were waiting for me there to open up and tell me their stories. And eventually I went to Malawi, and when I got there,
You had people waiting for you.
Chilega Airport, I will never forget that day. I remember when I just, handed in my passport to one of the security guard. He said to me, are you so-and-so from South Africa? I'm like, oh, yes. And then he said, follow me. I didn't even go to the process, where they have to stamp my passport. It didn't even get to that point. And I followed him, I remember I landed at 3, but it was back and forth. And I asked them, is there something wrong with my passport? What do you need?
Did you feel yourself being followed from to the airport in the airplane when you landed at Chileka Airport?
I'll be lying to you. Never, ever. There were no signs.
Did you get official assistance when you finally were given a phone to call a member of your family or your editors?
Of course, yes. I must say, our South African embassy and High Commission, good governance, they really come to my rescue, they saved my life.
Does that include Malawian officials as well?
I was speaking to a lot of people. I wouldn't recall very well, but I remember one call that, made me to relax at some point. This guy called me, I wouldn't mention the name, and he said to me, Ntombi, you are safe where you are. Don't go anywhere, you are safe at the police station. Don't even try to go to the hotel.
So I want to come back to your story yesterday, which you wrote about Prophet Lukau and his history. Just in investigating these churches, Prophet Bushiri, Prophet Lukau's church, Alleluia Ministries, do you get a sense that people are scared to talk? Is there information that's coming out about them that's making you feel like there's a lot more that meets the eye, including criminal activity?
There's a lot that still need to come out. People are very scared of these leaders or so-called prophets. I remember last week when I was busy doing the story, one of my sources, pulled out, last minute, and he was like, Ntombi, I really want to open up, but I can't do this anymore. My sources were threatened. One of my sources was followed, chased by, a car,
I know there's
shotguns.
No way you could know this, but how do people get that information? That you're talking to, do you think you are being monitored or they're being monitored?
one thing for sure I can tell you, I know my phone is backed. You know, I'm not sure whether I'm being followed. You know, I'm just, you know, surviving by the grace of God, to be honest with you, you know, Tepi, because I must say it hasn't been easy, you know, for the sake of my family. You know, I don't leave the house. I have to pray before I leave the house, you know, and ask God for God's protection for me and my family.
And does that also have to do with what you found out during the course of your investigation of these churches? I know in your story yesterday you say people commit themselves to things that they cannot get out of. What do they do? Are they...
So basically, they get into a covenant, you know. Some of the things that you've read, I didn't even put it because I didn't understand myself. And as a journalist, you need to understand what you're writing. Yeah. You cannot just... They were very hectic. I remember when I was sitting with my editor, editing the story, she was like, "Woo, this is very scary, you know. What is this, you know?"
What are they? Are they rituals? What are they?
It's rituals, like... hectic rituals. Like I've been, you know, as a Christian myself, I've never been exposed to what I've learned the past few days. Wow, it's shocking details.
Is there an element of gangsterism? And by this I ask because when you wrote your story about Prophet Lukau, you were saying this is somebody who is an investment banker who somehow started his ministry at this company, but suddenly things started growing exponentially, including material things. So are these people protected by armed guards, as you mentioned in your story?
It's very deep and very complex, you know. There's so much that's happening in these churches. Money laundering, I can name them all, you know. It's my rituals. It's scary stuff, and you ask yourself, are these prophets real? Are they doing these things? Really? It's really shocking. Just keep on reading City Press, you know. You'll
But do people know about it when they go to these churches? Or do they get hooked and then find out about just how serious?
So people, like, they will just saying they're going to church like a normal church, you know. People are gullible, remember. Our people, it's gullibility as well, which, you know, people are brainwashed. There are things that are happening behind the scenes, but obviously if you're desperate, you want miracles, you know, you'll end up doing, you know, you'll go to a church not knowing what happens behind the scenes. You know, at some point I was told that they will take them to the bushes for 3 days, where you sign a covenant, you get into a covenant, and when you come back, you are never the same person.
But what I want to understand is, what do people say is the allure? Somebody's telling you to buy a white face cloth for 3,000 Rand, if that is the asking price. What makes you think that face cloth has power to change your life?
Because you are being brainwashed. You've signed a covenant, you are a leader. It's leaders. When I was speaking to my socks, a former leader told me that they do that not to every church member. You have to be deep, you know. There are classes that you have to attend in church, and also you have to be a leader, to be exposed to these things. So if me and you would decide to go to a church on Sunday, we wouldn't be exposed to such things. You need to go to classes. There are things, you know.
So once you're in this inner circle, you're vulnerable to being threatened if you should want to pull out.
You can't leave the church. I mean, one of the former leader was saying to me, it wasn't easy. You know, at some point, they were like, you're not going anywhere. But because of his sanity, he had to leave the church.
Just a quick question, Ntombizodwa. Have you heard of anybody who has died as a result of either trying to pull out of the church or wanting to speak out about these churches?
As far as I know, no.
All right, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you very much, Ntombizodwa Makhoba. She is City Press journalist, as we mentioned earlier on. She was covering a story in Malawi where she was abducted and then detained.